Tinder is no longer the highest earning app in the US. TikTok crossed a brand new milestone. Remember that game from last week? I have brand new numbers on it, so stay tuned. Welcome to a new episode of This Week in Apps. My name is Ariel, and this week, like every week, I rounded up 5 interesting things you need to know about mobile apps and games. Let's jump right into it. December, the month for many apps and games, is behind us. So, just like I do every month, I rounded up the most downloaded apps in the world, and let's have a look at who won this in December. Instagram was the most downloaded app in the world in December of 2021. It made its way into 60 million devices across the App Store and Google Play, according to our estimates. TikTok was right behind it with 51 million downloads, and that's because it's still banned in India. India is one of the biggest markets for Instagram's growth right now, and that's where all that is coming from. Speaking of India, Meesho, a shopping app for India, has made its way into the number 3 most downloaded app in the world. And here's the interesting thing. Meesho is only for India. So all those downloads are India only, and they're ranking in a chart that's for apps that are being downloaded all over the world. That's pretty incredible. Meta's remaining champions, Facebook and WhatsApp, were the 4th and 5th most downloaded apps in December. The one app we keep seeing more and more over the last few months in these charts is CapCut, TikTok's video editor. I talked about it more than once, so you should be familiar with it. And I think what we're going to see is a trend where it takes over. And that's not really great news for video editors, a category of apps that's making a lot of money right now. Our estimates show that together, the top 10 most downloaded apps in the world in December were downloaded 363 million times. And that's about 10% higher than November, but with pretty much all the same players. Next up, what's more interesting than downloads these days? Money. In addition to looking at downloads, I also rounded up the highest earning apps in the US, not games, just apps. Games is next week. And I wanted to see if it's any different than November. YouTube was the highest earning app in the US, earning $88 million of net revenue according to our estimates. And that's only from the App Store because on Google Play, YouTube monetizes directly. It regained the top position after Tinder took over for a couple of months, and it pushed Tinder back into 2nd place. But Tinder had a massive haul of $75 million according to our estimates. TikTok was right below it, but I expect this is really the last month where we'll see TikTok so low. Number 3 is low. So low in this list. I'm going to be talking about something else later that I saw, and you'll know why. Streamers took the 4th and 5th places, which I found a little bit surprising, but box office revenue has been really high this December, so I think we're starting to see this shift more towards going back to normal being not just sitting in front of our TVs all day, and that's what we're seeing here, which means that for streamers, it's going to get a little bit more tough to acquire new users. Together, we estimate that the 10 highest earning apps in the US brought in $414 million in net revenue from the App Store and Google Play. And that's net, meaning after they pay Google and Apple their fees. Last week, I shared download estimates for Wordle, an old game that has the same name as a web game that gained popularity, a lot of popularity last month. And I'm not talking about the clones that Apple took down. Normally, I don't talk about the same app or game 2 weeks in a row, but the numbers I shared last week, which looked pretty big back then, have been dwarfed this week. And so I just had to look at it again. I mean, look at these numbers. Wordle has reached new highs this week, hitting 80,000 downloads on Wednesday in a single day. And the journey is nowhere near over. In total, the game was downloaded more than 500,000 times in the last couple of weeks. But we can't let those big numbers fool us because I talk about intent a lot in the context of App Store optimization. If you've seen my live streams, you know what I'm talking about. And if you end up being lucky enough to get downloads for your app for a keyword that is not really relevant for your app, which is exactly what's happening here, you know that you're not going to get those users to convert into anything meaningful. And that's exactly what's happening here. We see that all those downloads are happening, yet revenue is very small. We're talking about peanuts in comparison to these big numbers. And why is that? Because people are looking for Wordle, what they saw on the web, and they're not seeing it in this game. This game is not supposed to be Wordle from the web. It's a game from 5 or 6 years ago, so I totally get it. But it's all about intent. People are looking for one thing, they're finding another, and they're not converting. Here's what I think. If I'm the developer of this game and I already committed all this money to charity, I would take some time to dust off this project and try to figure out a way to make it maybe a little bit more appealing. It's a great cause, and if you can ride this momentum, ride this wave, especially if you're working with the original developer of Wordle for the web, the one that's getting all the attention, that should be really easy. 2022 is going to be the year of TikTok. This is not the first time I say it, and I doubt it's going to be the last. If you remember, a few months ago, I made a prediction that TikTok will become the top grossing app in the US in early 2022. And guess what happened this morning? If you look at the top grossing list on the App Store, and I'm talking about the one that includes apps and games, you'll see that TikTok is the leader. They took the lead away from YouTube, which enjoy this position for such a long time. soon. It's possible and likely that we'll see the two go back and forth for a little bit. So TikTok is going to dip a little bit. YouTube will take number one again. But I believe that TikTok will outpace YouTube's revenue in the US App Store very soon. Very, very soon. And then there's not going to be any way to dethrone TikTok because the path it's on is just incredible when it comes to growth. It's not that YouTube is doing anything wrong, and I don't have anything against YouTube at all. In fact, I'm investing a lot into YouTube. I mean, you're watching me on YouTube right now, and I like YouTube and I like shorts. But TikTok's ability to monetize its user base is just second to none. And because of all that revenue, I bet you we're going to see more creators attempt to leverage TikTok to make money. And that's going to mean more content on TikTok and more variety. And that's going to mean more people paying. And that's going to mean more creators making money. It's kind of a cycle that makes TikTok stronger. Last for this week, let's talk about paid games. The top paid games list in the App Store is fairly static. And if you remember a few episodes ago, I did a comparison between paid games and free games to see how much money they're making. And there was a lot more money in free games than you would imagine. Or if you look at it the other way, a lot less money in paid games, which is why I was a bit surprised to see a single franchise take over most of the top paid app list this week. And that's, again, the list that has apps and games. And it continued into this week, which is why I had to do some digging. The franchise I'm talking about is Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a series of games that take place in a haunted pizzeria, and it was released in 2014, went viral, and that was 2014. A few weeks ago, Five Nights at Freddy's episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and SL, all paid games that cost $2.99 in the US App Store, took over the top paid list, and as of right now, they're still in the lead, ranking just below Minecraft. We estimate that together, the top 5 games that are currently the top paid games in the US have earned more than $1.2 million in revenue in the US across the App Store and Google Play. And that's an amazing haul for a collection that's nearly 7 years old. And some of these games haven't even updated in more than a year, some in more than that. Well done. And that's all I have for you this week. If you enjoy the insights in this episode, consider subscribing to the channel and giving me a like so I know that you like them. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if you're curious what Joe Rogan did for Getter, check out last week's episode here. I'll see you next week.